Hello viewers, once again it's Peter Elgar here with a video, and this time it's part 2 of my Minolta manual focus cameras. I put on part 1 earlier on the SRT 100X, and this part 2 is delayed, I'm afraid, due to my daughter's Mac refusing to upload it, so I'm doing it all in one take. Well, here we have the famous Minolta X700, which was one of the most successful cameras of the Minolta manual focus era. This is the standard lens it comes with, a 50mm 1.7, and it's called the MD fitting, as opposed to the MC fitting of the earlier cameras. The lens is removable by pressing the little release button here. Now, one of the features of the X700 is the excellent delayed action device. We've got to turn on the camera first, if I can show you. You turn it on, so that the word on is in that little window there. There we are, that's gone green. So the word on, and we can wind it on, and we can show you the delayed action device. We've got a thing here where you pull it up, and you press that, and hopefully it will give you a delayed action with a red flashing light. Here it goes. That's a 500th of a second. The other part of the camera is the stop down lever on the front here. This pushes against the pin of your lens and closes down the aperture. First of all, your aperture is fully open for exposure measurement. Then you can stop down or manually, or when the camera takes a picture, that little lever will press against that and stop it down to the aperture that you have decided upon. Now, what does MPS stand for? That had me puzzled for some time. I found that it stands for Minolta Program System. The Minolta X700 was the first one to have the programmed exposure. Now here we have the top of the camera with the controls. We have a film counter here. We have a little reminder dial, slot here, which goes red when you. I think when it goes red when you take a picture. Oh, I forget what it does now. Anyway, here we have the dial for shutter speed. You can set each shutter speed manually from 1,000th down to 1 second, or if you put it onto the A setting, you get automatic aperture priority. But if you move it around to the P setting, and you have to press a little button here to do that, you get programmed exposure, where the camera does both the aperture and the shutter for you. Now, in order to get programmed exposure, put red dot to red dot. There we are, the red dot on the top. You've got to set your lens to the green f22 setting. Now, there's a lock here. You can press this lock, and it goes green, and it should be locked, so you can't move it inadvertently off the f22. When you set it, it does both the shutter and the aperture for you, according to how bright is the light going through the lens and how you set your sensitivity of your film here. That is the film sensitivity setting, which is on 400. You move it around by lifting it up, changing it as you want to. There we are, that's changed now. Put up the little dial. That's on 200. No, that's on 800. Now, if you want to use any of the automatic settings, the program or the aperture priority, you can use, with an electronic shutter camera, the exposure compensation dial, which is here. So if you're shooting in snow, you can put it to +1 or +1.5 even, for shooting in white snow conditions. And if you're shooting something on stage in a spotlight, you put it to -1. I normally find -1 is good for stage photographs. That is the exposure compensation dial. If you want to do manual readings, then you've got to take that off f22, set it to an aperture, turn this one round to one of the shutter speeds here, and then you look in the viewfinder and there's the electronic readout here in little LEDs come up in red, and when you've balanced up the shutter speed with the aperture so it doesn't flash anymore, that means you've set the correct manual exposure. It's a bit difficult to show you, but in order to do everything you've got to have your camera switched on. And when you've finished, remember to switch that off, because you are using batteries when it's switched on. Round the on the base of the camera you have a contact for the motor wind here and here. That's the electronic contact. In this one you've got the battery compartment. Now these take the easily available 1.5 volt button cells. Two of those it takes, they're easily available. I've taken some quite good shots with this camera. There's a X synchronizing plug round here. Well, here we are. Everyone's different, so excuse me. That's the X synchronizing socket where you plug in electronic flash. X stands for xenon tube, which is electronic flash. There's no FP for flash bulbs on here. This other socket is for a standard cable release, and I have used that. Now when you open the camera back here by pulling up on the rewind button, there's a film loading mechanism. It's quite straightforward. You stick in your film here, wiggle it around until it seats properly. You pull out some, stick it into a slot on this side here, like that. Press with your thumb so it winds on. Make certain the sprocket is going over these into the little hole there. That's why you tension it with your thumb. Yes. And you can flick it over, wind back the rewind button a little bit. Then you can, if it's switched on of course, which is now on, you can fire the shutter. Take one frame, that takes up the exposed bit. Watch that this is winding round. Yes, perfect. Now, it's not on number 1, it's on start. But you will get extra frames as you are photographing. You'll get 39 out of a 36 exposure. When you've finished, remember to turn the camera off on so that it goes off in the little word off here, or auf in German. Press in the rewind button here and turn, it's best to do it with a little finger, turn this so that you can feel the film coming out. There we are, the film has gone click. Now safe to open and take out your film, ready for processing. Now I had another lens with this camera, another MD fitting lens, which is this one. This is a Minolta MD Zoom 35 to 70 3.5 maximum aperture, and that doesn't vary. It's very good. The action of it is slightly, there's a bit of play here on the action, and I found when I was taking pictures at infinity here, my pictures were all out of focus. They're very soft. So I did some tests and I found in order with this lens, because there's a bit of play, because the other owner didn't look after it, infinity has to be 30 feet or fractionally in front 30 feet. Then infinity is sharp. But if I take pictures closer, 7 foot, 5 foot, they're all pin sharp. Now this is the earlier version, but a later version had a macro setting here. But this one hasn't got it. But it is incredibly sharp. I've got a picture taken with it here. This little drummer boy down my shop. Look, that's taken at full aperture, and I can assure you that is really, really sharply focused. That's a good little lens, that is. Now the other lens I can use with it is the MC series, which are the earlier lenses. This is one of the SRT 100X. That's a Minolta MC fit. There we are, MC. Stands for meter coupled. I've done a very good picture with that. That's a 3.5 28mm. It goes on the X700, works perfectly. I'll show you quickly 10 by 8 print. I've done all that. One minute, we're going to turn it round, go back on the zoom a little bit. Now look at the texture on that. Pin sharp, that print. That was taken stock down to f8. And it's really sharp lens. So I'm enjoying using my Minolta manual focus cameras. And I will see if I can do some more videos later on some of my other treasures that I was given. In the meantime, thanks for watching, and I hope you'll subscribe.